Good evening, boys, girls, parents. How are we? Frog. Hang on, mate. Okay. I'll unmute you. How are you, bud?
Yeah, good. Is that you? The tadpole's there as well. Very good.
Tadpole's here too, yeah.
Just like being down
Right,
at the Bar pub, isn't it?
Me? Oh, I
Can you
will.
hear me, Fitz?
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you, Colsey?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you guys?
Good, thanks. Got about 50 young kids watching in, mate, thus far.
Oh, good.
So, yes, they can hear everything that is going on.
That's good.
It is, mate. It's, mate. You keeping busy?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah. I can see some messages coming up there too. Look at that.
Yeah. I'm just going to sort out this live on Facebook, so you boys have a little bit of a chin wag.
Yeah. I'll catch up with all the hello to everyone. Hello, Mark Cole, says Ananto.
Oh, g'day. How you going? Ananto. I like it. Udine. That sounds Pakistani to me, potentially.
Okay.
I like it.
Where's your background in Anto?
G'day, Daniel.
Daniel, yeah. He's Bangladeshi. Close.
Okay, very close.
Close.
G'day, Tobes. Oh, yes. Hi, Zach from Pottsville Pelicans.
Siddharth, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Brilliant.
I reckon we're good here with the Facebook Live.
Really, that was quick tonight.
Beautiful.
Can hear you as well, Nick. So, Colsey, thanks very much for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate giving you time and doing.
No worries.
Obviously offering up your services and time to keep everyone entertained and talking a bit of cricket
Yeah.
for the next sort of
looking forward to this.
Now, I guess firstly, what we've been doing with all of our guests is getting them to sort of give us a brief rundown of your cricketing journey, going back to your playing days, which weren't that long ago, mate, I'm sure.
No. That's probably before some of your young guys and girls were born, but anyway.
I'd still love to hear about that, mate. And obviously sort of get into your sort of coaching days and experience, because I guess that's probably what you're most well known for, that most recently head coach of the Pakistani women's team, mate. So, which I'm sure we'll delve a little bit deeper into, but just start us off, mate. Where did it all kick off for you? Oh,
well, it all started for me in Wellington. I mean, the old man played for Wellington, so I was pretty keen to sort of follow in his footsteps. Didn't quite work out that way, but he had a reasonable rate of success. And then I finished up playing in '96. I played a few second 11 games. I was sort of in and out of the fringes of that Wellington team, but didn't quite get over the line. So I finished with a pretty serious stress fractures in those days. It was just really a sore back. But looking back, they didn't really have the equipment that they have these days. It was pretty serious, and I could hardly get out of bed. And at that stage, I think I was 27 or 28, and just said, this isn't for me. So I got offered a job. I went to the CEO at the time and said, look, I'm pretty keen to probably get into some coaching rather than umpiring. I was tossing and turning about umpiring and just thought, no, it's not going to work, because all the bowlers will get the LBs and it's not going to work out very well. So I went into coaching, and he rang me back a couple of days and said, I've got a job for you. He said, we need a coach for the Wellington women's cricket team. To be brutally honest, I didn't actually know that they played, which is probably pretty poor research from me. But anyway, that's sort of how the coaching started. And then in 2008, I think, was it 2009, I decided to, goodness me, that was an experience. I decided to come over and I coached these two.
Over the coast.
Yeah, look at you. You've brightened up all of a sudden. Sat up in your coast. Sat up in your chair, and then I had an experience with these two guys on now. So, and it was a really good experience, I think, because it taught me a lot of things. I learned a lot of things, and then I took over to Vanuatu, which was a completely different setup. No real funds. Cricket balls were 150 overs old at best, wire nets. It was horrendous. But, we got them going, and they were great well, I came to the coast and played a little bit. So I think, Pete, you might have played against them.
Yeah.
Great guys, and we had a little bit of success, and we ended up playing in Kuwait in an ICC league at that stage, and it was another little stepping stone for me. And I had a young family, obviously, and then we took off to Western Australia, and then Mel's mum became quite ill, so we went back to New Zealand and stayed there for a while, and then about 2 years ago, I got this opportunity from Mickey Arthur, who was had just started coaching Pakistan, probably a year into his reign, and said, look, these girls have finished up. I know that you've been involved in Western Australia, which is where I first met Mickey. Do you want to give this a crack? So I've never really been one to not turn down a challenge, I guess. So I sort of politely broke it to Mel. At that stage, we'd only just been married 6 months. We got married in Noosa, and sort of just had to quietly break the news that I was heading off to Pakistan. Most people said, you know what happens, in Pakistan? I said, yeah. Oh, good luck. May or may not see you. So I ended up writing out a will and all that sort of thing, just in case things went horribly wrong with the cricket, in terms of the cricket, not anything else. And then off I went. So, and I spent 2 really good years there. It ended in October last year, just because it needed to, and it was time to, and I needed to get back to the family. You just miss so much.
Yeah.
When you're over there.
How long were you actually spending over in Pakistan each time you went over?
3 or 4 months at a time. So I'd sort of leave, and I'd leave a month out before a tour, or 2 months out, and then the tour would start. That'd be normally Wota goes about 30 odd days, about a month away, because you've got your warm up games and that, and then you've got your series, and then I'd look to come home at the end of that and be home for 2 or 3 weeks, and then be back over again. So it got quite tough, because the men's guys weren't there a lot. They were always away. So we sort of, sometimes they were there, but not for long before they headed off on their tour. So it was more the day-to-day grind of going out and having a coffee. You had to take an armed guard with you. So sleeping at nights, we had a compound that we slept in, which was perfectly good, the academy, but we'd have a sniper on one side and then a sniper on the other side between 11 and 7. So we were well looked after.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick, you go.
I just said a completely different way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to sort of get into, Colesy. Obviously, there's those differences just in, I guess, the environment and lifestyle and everything like that. How did you go about, I guess, was that normal for the Pakistani women? Like, that environment, obviously they've grown up, so it was to them, was it just like water off a duck's back playing in that environment, or did you have to sort of foster that sort of relationship and then also that environment?
They were okay. The security came around us. Pakistan just couldn't afford anything to go wrong from 2009 when Sri Lanka got attacked. So it was more around the Western coaches that were over there. And I was the very first Western male to ever coach Pakistan. And I'm not sure whether there ever will be another one. I think we've had 2 years of me and thought, this is crazy times. We may not get anyone back. But
in all seriousness, as in just the lengths they have to go to for protection and things like that?
Yeah. So whenever we travelled, if we were travelling in a team, we'd have a bulletproof bus. And so if we were leaving and we were going to, say, Dubai to play, because we'd never play we played once at home, but if we were playing New Zealand, which was the first tour, we were in a bulletproof bus with police, fire, ambulance, all around us. And so it was prime minister type protection. And when the West Indies came, I had close protection security on my floor the whole time. So if I went down to breakfast, these guys in a suit would follow me down. Anyone that came up to me, they would push to one side. So it was interesting. I only had one death threat when I was there, when we lost to India. That was in the Asia Cup in 2018. So I got back to the hotel and was looking. We were pretty miserable, the team. We'd just lost to India in the Asia Cup, and no one in Pakistan liked losing to India. And then I was looking through my phone, and up popped a Facebook message with my family wedding photo taken from my Facebook page, and an Urdu. So I went to the manager and said, I'm assuming that he's not congratulating us on the win here. Or is he? The loss, because we lost. And he just looked at me and went, I'll contact the PCB. So when I got back to Pakistan, instead of just having one guy, I had two on me the whole time. So it was difficult times, but it was, and that's the interesting side of it. There's so many interesting stories. The fun side of it was I had a great time and the girls did all right. And, it's something that you'll never, ever forget.
Mm. Do you, I guess, leading from that, you've coached obviously males and females. What's the differences, I guess, in them to get to coach as players?
Well, coaching you two was pretty tough. Let's put it out there right now. And that was one of the hardest jobs I've had. I think the female players I enjoy working with because they really want to learn and understand the game, and they're great listeners. And it's a different coaching philosophy. Males really want to win the whole time. And the three of us and a lot of the young fellas listening we'd play games until one of us won, and then we'd want to play again and come on. Girls aren't quite as competitive. They play for different reasons. They play to learn, they play to enjoy. And yes, winning's important to them, but it's probably not the most important thing to them. That may be a generalization, but I think 80% of the time your female players are playing to learn and enjoy the game rather than that intenseness of winning the competition all the time.
Probably less egos, would you say, as well, to deal with?
What was that, sorry?
I reckon there's less egos in the male game.
I do. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think certainly with our girls, there weren't really any egos at all. There couldn't be because they were getting abused by the media and the general public, the general Muslim man. Again, a little bit of a generalisation, but a lot of them just didn't really think that the female should be playing sport at all. It wasn't their place in their society.
Yeah.
I might just shoot quickly to a question from Alessia, who's just said, what advice do you have for a young female cricketer who wants to take their game to the next level, Mark? Huge question, but I guess without knowing too many details, have you got?
Well, it is. I think you have to work on the process first, and I think that's with everything. Whether you're a batter, you've got to understand that your job as a batter is scoring runs. If you're a spin bowler, it's to attack, and if you're an opening bowler, obviously it's to get wickets early on. But understanding what the process is and what your job in the team is probably the first part of it. And then working really hard. But working hard, I think the key thing is, I see a lot of young guys and girls and they go down to the nets and they're there for 3 or 4 hours. But my suggestion is, what are you actually achieving? Because you need to go into a net or into a situation with something specific in mind that you want to achieve. And as long as you're telling your coach that then, this is what I want to achieve. I'm practicing hitting over the top because I want to get better at it. Then that's okay. The coach understands. But, and then in the society that I was in, the girls just wanted to practice all the time. That's what they wanted to do. They thought by practicing for long periods of time, they were going to get better. And I think it's a key for young cricketers, both boys and girls. 45 minutes of quality work, and you guys know, is a lot better than having a 3-hour net of achieving very little.
Yeah, train with purpose. It's a big thing, isn't it? I know it's what we sort of preach a lot in our academies as well.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah. The last couple of weeks as well with people I've spoken to.
Yeah, big time. I guess then at that elite level, have you noticed any traits or personalities, or even, some might work really hard, like the elite players compared to like the sort of steady international players at that level? Do the elite have any sort of different traits or something you can put your finger on?
Well, I'll tell you a little story for both male and female players. When we played Australia in October 2018, I think it was, we played them in Kuala Lumpur. We managed to get out landing pretty early on. which we were all pleased about. Unfortunately, Healy or someone got 100, so that didn't really make too much of a difference. But I was pretty happy because she's a damn good player. And I was sitting on the sideline thinking, yes, you beauty, you know, one less to worry about. Next one walks in. She walked straight out of the ground in her kit with her helmet, straight past us, round and straight over to the nets, and spent the next 45 minutes hitting balls. Didn't take her pads off, didn't take her gloves off, just walked straight off, over and in. And our girls on the sideline were just like, what is she doing? And so I guess that was a really good thing for us, that she was so angry, I suppose, at getting out, but so determined to get it better that she went over and basically pushed one of the non-playing Australian girls out of the net and got the assistant coach to start throwing balls at her. I suppose when you're the captain, you can do that.
Yeah.
But what? As I said to the girls, the thing is, what did she do? She just didn't go over and hit balls. She actually practiced spin, which got her out in the game. And she practiced pretty much the same shot that she went out to for 45 minutes in the net. So I guess for me, that's something that the top players do really well. And you hear these stories about Steve Smith and others that just are relentless in terms of getting better, but they get better by practicing specifics. And I can't stress that enough. You know, she just didn't go over there and just hit balls. There was actually a specific task that she was practicing. A couple of days later, when we played her in the third one day, she got 100. Didn't get out to spin either. So it worked, you know. Yeah.
I recall we spoke to Peter Fulton last week, and there were a couple of questions about, you know, who trains the hardest, and a lot of Kane Williamson specific questions. He's like, what I will say about Kane is every day, every time he trains, he just aims to improve a little bit. Yeah. You can see he's really purposeful in how he trains, just to get a little bit better at something. I think that's probably, I would suspect, a common trait of all the best players. They're always looking to improve daily. Yeah.
Agree with you. 1% better every day.
Yeah.
On a personal note, mate, you've done something that's pretty impressive, I reckon. And I mean this with all respect. You've managed to carve out a career in a pretty tough industry, a pretty cutthroat industry, cricket coaching. Probably fair to say it's an easier thing to do if you've been an elite player. You've played for, you know, Australia, international cricket. What do you think you've done to make yourself stand out as a coach and manage to build that career around cricket coaching?
Well, I don't think you ever stop learning. That's the first thing. And I try and read books on people that have either been in a leadership role, whether it's sport or any other leadership role. I was just reading a book called Extreme Leadership, really good book from Navy SEAL, and listen to him, Jock Willachink or whatever his name is. So if you're a young person, grab that book. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed that book. But I also I've spent a lot of the family's money, which is awkward, you know, when you've got a wife that likes clothes. But I spent some time with Wayne Bennett, and actually went over and saw him and spent a day with him, and just learned what they do that might be differently. And really, to be honest, we're all coaches on this. Players are coaches too, but the three of us have coached. I think it's just about having empathy and understanding people more. And I think when I first coached you guys, I didn't really understand people that well. And going back, I've certainly understood people in the last 10 years a lot better now. And everybody has a story. Yeah. And some of those stories aren't great stories. Certainly in the last 2 years where I've been, there's been some horrendous stories from these young ladies. So getting them out on the field is a miracle. Getting them to perform is even better. So I never stop learning. And I always think that you've got to admit sometimes that if you don't know it, you'll find out the answer. I don't think that's a bad thing as a coach.
Yeah.
So that's just my story. It is hard having not played elite cricket, but you just got to be really determined as well and knock on doors too. If you want to be a coach and you're a young player that might be looking at coaching, knock on doors and ask questions.
And like you've done, I think, you know, like you said earlier, you've never really knocked back a challenge. You've taken on some really challenging roles. coaching Pete and I.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging.
I've lived in countries that are less safe than where you live. You've travelled the world, you put yourself in danger and taken on those harder roles and challenges. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, look, yeah, and I think that's part of it. And I'd love to do another stint somewhere, maybe a Bangladesh or a Sri Lanka with some of the girls over there, or who knows where next. But I think you do have to do that. You know, you're right. You have to put yourself out there and say, right, no one else is going to do this role, but I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, Coles. We've got a question here from Nathan de Villiers saying, what would you be doing if you weren't a coach? Fantastic question. Am I right in saying you have a degree in journalism?
Yes, I do. Great memory. Yeah, I do actually. I spent, but I've got a face for radio, obviously, so that makes things a little bit easier. Nathan de Villiers, gee, you've got a good last name there, young man. Well, my wife would probably suggest that I'd be cleaning out rubbish bins or something, Nathan. I don't actually know. Thankfully, I haven't really thought about it. I was a sales rep for a while before I took up coaching. So I guess I might go back to that, but I really didn't like it. I hated it, to be honest. Good question, Nathan. I honestly don't want to think about it too much, actually. Probably
all in on coaching.
Yeah. Goodness, that's a tough question. I assume that young Nathan's South African as well, by the sound of that.
He did say previously that he'd been coached by Mickey Arthur previously.
Oh, well, then he might have been Perth-based. Mickey Arthur. Well, he's a good coach. I spent a lot of time with Mickey as well. You learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
Particularly about Australia. That didn't go so
good. Mate, another one here from Jamie. Who was your idol growing up?
Martin Crowe.
Okay, Crowe.
And Richard Hadley. Yeah, the late Martin Crowe.
What did you bowl, Colesy? Like swing, pace?
Well, I was forced to bowl into the wind.
The Paul Cash.
So some would say medium slow. I like to think medium fast.
Yeah, okay.
It's a toss-up, really.
Shape it?
Well, not as much as Nick did. Nick was a wonderful swing bowler.
Cheers, mate.
No problem.
This is about you, though.
What time?
Ashton Haycock, I'm an all-rounder, so how do you believe I can organise to do batting and bowling in training? How would you manage the balance when you're an all-rounder?
Yeah, another good question. I think you've got to split the time evenly as much as you can. And don't forget your fielding either. I think a lot of these young guys and girls too, they forget about the most important thing in the game is fielding, and everybody has to do it. So what I would do, Nathan, you're obviously going to, maybe you have a stronger suit, maybe you're a bowler or a little bit more of a bowler than the batter or whatever it might be. But perhaps, if you've got an hour or 2 hours, whatever the case may be, then in a team practice, you want to try and split that time as much as you can, maybe 60% towards your bowling if you're a bowler, or the other way if you're a batter, and 40% of the time doing your other skill. Plus, obviously, you need to get some fielding work in too. So, yeah, that would be my suggestion. Just make sure that you're doing a little bit of both.
Probably becomes really important, your time management then as well. I think a lot of players waste time at training, having a chat at the back of the net and things like that. So you've got to use every minute you have at training. And then your extras obviously become really important. And like you said earlier, being really specific with what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get out of a session. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, the chats at the back of the net, you can easily have 50 catches with your friend. And to be fair, I remember you guys were really good at that. You wouldn't stand around chatting. And I'm not patting you on the back, not at all, but you were pretty good at grabbing a bat and having some catches and getting better, which makes it easier for the coach too, to turn around and see guys doing some catching. Makes his job a lot easier too.
Probably. Did you coach many juniors, Colesy?
No, I did when I was, I guess, coming through. Yeah. I went into a lot of schools when I was back in New Zealand with my job. I did a lot of going into schools and doing some just basic cricket coaching and stuff, which I enjoyed as well. It was good fun.
Yeah, I was just I guess, trying to get a bit of advice maybe to the majority who are listening, who are sort of between 10 and 15 years old. Like, a bit of a tough question, but is there sort of a couple of bits of advice you would give to them as players, maybe that
I tell you,
Yeah, way.
I think the first bit of advice is to enjoy the game and have fun. That should be across the board, from juniors all the way through to international players. And you hear a lot of these international players who are on the grind of international duty all the time. Once they don't start enjoying it, their game falls away. You've got to be able to go and enjoy the game. Yes, challenge yourself. Yes, try and learn something new. Yes, try and get 1% better every day. But at the end of the day, when you get old and you look back, a lot of the times that you look back on when you played cricket were when you were when the game was nearing finish, particularly when you were a junior. What ice block were we going to get? Who did something wrong? Someone went out first ball and someone got hit for 3 sixes. Those were the fun parts. You never really looked back and thought, oh, remember when we won the under-10 trophy wherever we were playing. You sort of, it was more the fun times and the friendships that you gain through cricket. And that's what I would say to any young players. Just go out, have fun, try and learn something new, but don't worry too much about the results. The results will take care of themselves as long as, you know, you're going through all your processes and things that you have to do first. Watch the seam of the ball if you're batting, you know, simple things.
And I think on that, also learning from the results, though. I think it's all well and good just to say, okay, I don't care about the result too much, but as long as you're learning from those results and then putting it into the processes. So to make it really obvious, if you're averaging 6, then you probably need to change your processes, and that's at training and working harder. Same as if you're a bowler and you're not getting any wickets or bowling poorly.
Yeah.
Probably have a think about the processes that are going into place.
Yes, agree. You know, why and how are great questions for players.
Brilliant, mate. Lachlan Selby, who is harder to coach, Fitz or Pete?
Lachlan, both.
Oh.
Both. There wasn't a clear winner.
If I was playing up, Pete was playing up, and vice versa.
Here you go, Lachlan. They honestly answered your question.
I think it probably got a bit easier when you were forced to drop me when I was averaging 4 or something for the season, so you could just split us up a bit.
It got easier when I left. Yeah, no, you know, we had some good times. You're both good friends right up until, you know, right now. We still keep in touch a lot, and even when we were overseas, you know, I used to get the odd message. And may I say here, not patting you on the back again, but I will, what a great thing you guys are doing for these young boys and girls. I mean, it's just a fantastic idea that you've come up with great people, and I think it's a credit to you with the amount of people that you've had come on and contribute to you. So well done, guys. It's just great to see what you're doing.
Thanks, Carl.
Yes. Good question here from Anonymous. Why exactly did you choose coaching? What do you love about coaching?
That's a really good question. I enjoy working with people and seeing them get better and enjoying the game. I think that's the great thing. You do, as a coach, you go through so many emotions as the game carries on, but I just think, you know, to see someone get in the nets or be out in the game situation, a match scenario, and actually achieve something that they've been really working on is such a great feeling for you as a coach, and then for them as a player. And I guess, you know, recently one of the ladies from the Pakistan team retired, a girl called Sana Mir, and to see her reach number 1 was not only a great feeling for her, but also something that we could tick off a box with, that we together sat down and wanted to achieve. And to see the player go through that emotion of actually getting there and being the number 1 bowler in the world, it just makes you feel really good as well that you've contributed to that. I mean, I didn't get any of the wickets, obviously, or anything, but to see her happiness is something. And I think that's why we do it, isn't it? You know, guys, that's why we coach, to see the young guys. And I often see them post up, I just got my highest score this season. You know, that for you guys that have had something to do with that young man or that young lady is something that you go, you know what, we're making a difference to people's lives. And I think that's really important.
Correct.
Nailed it, Colsey. Question here from Suranva. How can we make sure we still enjoy the game, even if we aren't performing very well?
Wow, you've got you set me up here, you guys. It's a great question.
Great questions.
Look, I think what you touched on it a little bit, Pete. I think you've got to go away and say, okay, where can I get better? How can I get better the next time that I practice, or the next time that I play? What are the simple, basic things that I can do to get better? And then I think you've almost got to park it up and do something that's away from cricket. Whether that's go down and ask mum and dad to get you an ice cream, or whether it's something completely not bike ride, go and meet your mates down at the park and kick a football. But at some stage you go through your self-analysis. Yes, what did I do well? Where can I improve on? Right, I'm parking it. Today wasn't my day. I'm going about my business next week. And we've got to remember in cricket, guys, that it's a game that's set up for failure. It's a game. You know, people talk about Steve Smith. He's averaging 60. What a great... He fails 40% of the time. That's the reality of the situation. So make the most of your days that go really well, but try and just park it up and do something away from cricket. And that goes, I think it's great advice for coaches as well. You know, we live and breathe it, don't we? And, you know, think, oh, our team's not doing very good. Why aren't the Scorchers winning? I think we remember the first 3 or 4 games that we lost in a row. I was nearly ready to go home, but we got there, didn't we? But sometimes you've just got to park it up.
Definitely, I think it's a big one as well. I know that we're big advocates of it, Nick, is taking that time off during the off season, playing another sport. I think playing cricket all year round, there's no other sport like it. And then you hit 16, 17, and it's all day, or Saturday, Sunday. You lose the enjoyment. You need that time away to reignite that flame.
Absolutely.
Even during the season, I believe it's really important to have other hobbies and interests to spend some time on during the week and that as well. Colsey, Siddharth has asked a question here, and it's probably applicable to any other people sort of wondering if they want to try and change skill sets. But he's basically said, hi, Mark, as an all-rounder, age 12, I do a lot of batting and bowling practice. It takes quite a toll on my body, and I've never been bad at leggies. Would you reckon it's too late to change, or can I try and bowl leg spin? So whether he can change from a quick to a leggy.
Oh, look, absolutely. And at 12, it's a really good age to do it, because you haven't, you're starting to go through your growth stages. But I don't think it's ever too late to do anything in cricket. I think you can still take up something, and it reminds me a lot of the world. I was just talking about Sanamir. She bowled fast when she first was in the Pakistan team. So for the first year or two, then she got stress fractures and started bowling spin. So she would have been 20, 22 when she did that. So I don't think it's ever too late. Leg spinning's hard, no doubt about that. It's a tough task that you're going to take up, but that's not to say that you can't do it. You've just got to go out there and believe that you can do it. Study good player. I mean, Warren is the obvious one probably to have a look at, to research. But no, never too late at all to start a new skill. Absolutely not.
I would add to that, Siddharth, just have a good hard think about it though. Don't just react based on one season now because your body's a bit sore. Fast bowling does take its toll on your body, and you've got to get used to that. The little niggles, and you've got to be able to play and bowl through that. And as you get older, even batting for long periods is going to do that to your body. So if that's the only reason you want to do it, I'd sit on it for a bit, because I actually wanted to do the same thing when I was about 14. I tried to change to off spin, and one of my coaches pulled me head in, and I'm really they did
again.
Otherwise, I've been playing 4th grade all my life.
Oh, you rated your offies, Fitzy. Every training session, at the back end of the session, here come the offies, a bit of carry on.
That's right, it floods back now, isn't it? Yeah,
you wouldn't be the Colin Funky Miller of the 21st century.
Oh, we laugh now. Yeah, you weren't one of the ones at the back of the net having catches, Nick. You were trying to bowl off spin, and then threw in the old Shane Warne leggy to
sledge out
the variation. Yeah.
And then
Brett,
ready for the month.
I've actually lost. This is from. So Ryan has asked, who was the favourite player you coached and coached against? And then I'll sort of chuck in this from Callum, and then along with that, what was your favourite moment of your coaching career? Favorite player to coach.
Okay.
Or best player you coached against, and then highlight.
Well, probably the best player I've coached against in female cricket would be Elise Perry and Meg Lanning. Well, basically the Australian women's cricket team. They're a very, very good setup, and you've got some very, very good players there. The best player, I don't know. I don't think it's the best player. I think it's the person that wanted to be the best, which is obviously Son of Mayor. But I think I had a little bit to do with Lee Kasperick, who plays for New Zealand. So her, and then I had a little bit to do with Nicole Bolton when I was in Australia, for Western Australia. So they were three players that I guess have made their way. Tim Sightford in New Zealand had a little bit to do with him when I was back in New Zealand. So I guess those are, but all the players I think are really good. I don't think there's any players that you don't not enjoy coaching. There's a couple of pain in the backsides, but I didn't say you, Pete.
No, you're looking at me, that's all.
There's a couple that, they're challenging people, but you get that in all teams, don't you?
As Nick said, everyone's got a story. I forget, it might have been you, but
yeah, that's right.
Boring if everyone's acting the same and robots.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed all my coaching roles. I think that everyone's offered something different, and they've all been good people. And the great thing is, you always connect with them. The guys in Vanuatu. I was in Melbourne watching the tennis open in January, and two guys from Vanuatu happened to spot me in the distance in Berg Street Mall. Up they came, middle of Country Road. I wasn't there shopping; it was Mel, but I don't get those items. But these two guys from Vanuatu just popped in and said we saw you, so we thought we'd come and say hi. Middle of Melbourne. It's fantastic. So you always stay connected, I guess, with players.
Yep, and then a highlight, mate, from your coaching career, other than that first win of that year with the Scorchers.
Yeah, that was a highlight. God, I thought that would never come. That was that was a long pregnancy. Crikey. I tell you, one highlight was when we beat Gold Coast. That was a real highlight because they were top of the tree. Remember, we went there with 4 for 44. Pete, you'd nicked out early on. That was a great highlight. The bus ride back was probably not so much of a highlight. What else? There's things that I remember that were great highlights. Beating New Zealand, Pakistan beating New Zealand when I coached them for the first time. It was my first tour, and we happened to steal a game off New Zealand. Was fantastic. But I don't know. I think they're all highlights. I don't think there's any one that sticks out, to be honest. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing, and it's just good fun. As I said before, it's better fun seeing players having fun playing cricket. I think is our job at whatever level.
Yeah, that's what I always say. It doesn't matter whether you play for Australia, Victoria, Premier First Grade, whatever level you've got the capacity to get to, you want to reach that. And then if you're doing well and enjoying your cricket at that level, then that's a win.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It's a great game that we play.
Yeah, unreal. You travel the world without playing for your country. And like you said, you've got a network and friends all over the world now through the sport that we play. Adam Eastgate's asked one, which I like. What's the best way to get the most knowledge out of a coach and pick their brains for all his or her knowledge? As a coach yourself, what did you find worked for a player to get as much out of you as possible?
I think you've got to ask questions. And what I thought, I was dealing, and I'll go back to Pakistan, I was dealing with a lot of players that didn't speak English. English wasn't one of their strong points. I used a couple of players that could speak English, but I think what I encouraged them to do was ask questions. Why? How? What? Really good questions of coaches. So why are we doing this? Hopefully the coaches that you deal with are open enough not to think, why are you asking questions? You shouldn't ask, just do it. I've never really thought that they were the best coaches, those coaches. I had a couple in my time, but I think when you ask questions, then you'll hopefully get the answers back. And remember that a lot of coaches may not have the answers, but hopefully they'll get to someone that will give you the answer. But certainly ask a lot of questions of your coach. And please don't be afraid to ask those questions, because that's the only way I think you'll get better. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. That's something we, harp on all the time about. If you do it in the right way, there's very few coaches that are actually going to get upset and angry at you for asking questions.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, I would hope that these young guys and girls aren't just, okay, we're doing 6 laps of the field. Well, I'd be asking why.
Yeah.
Why are we? What is the point of this? Why are we doing this? And how is this going to get us better? Hopefully that's gone now. I mean, that was sort of what I made you guys do and what I had to do, but no, I didn't. Just keep asking questions. So important.
Good, mate. Did you ever think about playing or coaching any other sports? Surely you would have played rugby growing up.
Yeah, I did. I was no good. Not really. I was, there's a couple of big Samoan boys that were always a bit bigger than me. I didn't really want to get hurt. So did I? Oh, no, I had a love for cricket, unfortunately. And it's a bug. You guys have got the bug. We've all got the bug. It's just, I miss it. I don't know. You young boys and girls are probably the same. You're sort of wanting to get out there. I coached a couple of young girls on Saturday, actually, just up the road here on the Sunshine Coast, and really enjoyed it because just felt that you could get out and do something, and it was exciting. It was sort of like your first day of school or first day of work or first game of cricket. So, yeah, no, not really. Rugby league, no, not really.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever felt the same passion for another sport.
No.
Enjoy watching AFL, but when I, tried to play and never got into coaching, but it just wasn't the same, like you said, as cricket. Siddharth.
Hang on, Fitz, what's your biggest bag of footy? I saw you kick, was it 8?
7, mate, I think.
Oh, fair performance.
For third grade Maroochydore. On a 100-kilo fullback.
Big boy.
Geelong.
Hey.
Siddharth reckons you would have been a comedian if you didn't coach Colsey. There you go.
Who said that?
Siddharth Basu.
Siddharth, it's never too late. Never too late. We're just talking about leg spin. That could well be the case. Starting to get late for me now, to be fair. I've reached a half century, Siddharth. Well, it's probably only the 4th or 5th one that I ever got.
You've used up all your jokes, I reckon.
Yeah, potentially.
Very fun, Siddharth. It was fun to have a chat with in the sheds after the game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I have one from Cheyenne because we've been speaking about the processes quite a bit tonight. He said, how do you understand that your processes are going in the right way? I guess probably more so during training, maybe, whether I guess you're always it's going to depend on the results, but is there any way during training, I guess, you can understand if you're doing the right thing?
Yeah. I guess you, as a player, you always get a feel for whether you're practicing well or not. And whether you're following your processes. And if you have a look at the...
Sorry, Colsey. Cheyenne's actually sort of a coach, I think, from memory as well. So it's probably from a coaching viewpoint. Maybe how do you find the correct process for certain players or teams, and how do you know that's the right sort of direction to be heading?
I think you'll understand by the engagement from the players, and you'll get a feel whether you guys would have run it too, and you go home and you think, I need to get better. That just didn't work. That drill didn't work. The players weren't that engaged with that one, and you sort of get a feel for how the practice is running, and it's really hard being a coach because, some days these young guys and girls have had a terrible day at school. They might have just got an E in maths and feeling terrible, and they've got to go home and tell their parents that the report's not so good. So, and then your practice is affected by that. So I think you get a real feel for probably how the practice is going, and then you get a feel to change it and go, okay, we need to do something fun. I'm gonna stop this practice at the end of this. Doesn't feel like we're getting anywhere. We're not learning anything. players don't seem engaged. So you might just say, look, we're just going to play a fun game or do something different. But, you know, and often I've gone back to the hotel or my room and just thought, that just wasn't right, you know. And players do that. Players, I guess, are the same too. They have a bad day, and that's where you learn and think, right, what could I have done differently? So I guess just asking questions of yourself as a coach too. Was that the right thing to do? Did practice go on for too long? Did I talk too much? Did I not talk enough? Did I say the right things?
There's a lot of variables in that sort of question as well. Who are you coaching? And I guess I reckon the big one's to ask yourself, you know, what am I trying to achieve from this drill, or, you know, this the drill that you might give the team or the individual. And if the goal is for them to get better, then that's the correct process. But then maybe going back and reflecting and assessing whether it works or not, which is like what you said, Mark.
Yeah. Did I stick to the plan?
There's another rap for you, Colesy from Siddharth. He's gone, you're a great coach. I wish you were in Brisbane. He's on.
I am in Brisbane.
Yeah, he's moved over.
Yeah, I'm here. Siddharth, I'm here. Just on the Sunshine Coast. I can only go 50 Ks, but if you're on the 51st K, then I'm in trouble. The police will get me. But no, I'm here. That's another funny story. Remember when we were playing University? Sorry, listeners. When we were playing University of Queensland, I was driving the bus. Were you in it too, Pete? I think you
yes,
were.
I believe I was.
Got a damn ticket for going down the hill. Remember, he was waiting at the bottom.
I do.
Handed over my New Zealand license. He said, how long have you been here for? I said, 6 months. He said, it expires after 3 months. Here's your ticket, on your way.
Oh, naughty boy.
Those are the fun things that you remember, though, remember? And then got grumpy because we didn't warm up properly. Because we were late by 15 minutes. Well, I spoke to old mate, the policeman.
Oh,
come on, guys. Why aren't we? Come on. And then Frog, I think you got belted all around the park from that little left-hander that used to play for Queensland. He's probably been on your show.
Rita?
Oh, it could have been. Yes, I think he got about 60 off 10 balls.
Rita coaches, yeah.
Yeah, terrible day. Anyway,
have you got another question, Fitz?
Do you want to start wrapping it up? That's been about 45.
Yeah, can do, mate. Colesy, thank you, mate. You've received some glowing raps here from everyone.
I thought you said we were going through to midnight. The show's just started. What's going on? I didn't know I was on a time limit. I've got to go down and watch MasterChef now.
We've got another question.
Yeah, let them roll them in, guys. Come on, more.
Oh, mate.
One last one. Come on, come up with a good one. Ripper, mate. I know. Don't worry about what's Ripper.
I'm looking now.
More good on you, Callum.
We've got 41 questions, Colesy, so
we won't get through all of them before midnight. Was there one from that policeman?
Is he on it?
Oh, mate.
No, that could be it. Midnight. I agree, Callum. They've cut me off at the knees.
I don't mind this one from Sanuka. How do you get to? What advice would you give to get along with non-supporting team members and how to handle them? And I'll go probably the extra distance. Say, as a coach, if you have players that are just not really buying into the team environment, how do you approach that?
I think it's a good question, and it's a tough question too. But I think that's one of those inconvenient conversations that you're going to have as a team. And there's going to have to be an eye to eye, like, where are we at here? Are we on the same page? Are we following what we really wanted to achieve at the start of the season? And sometimes you might just have to say, I don't like the way that you're behaving, and without it becoming a nasty conversation. I just think that sometimes you've just got to sit down as a team and be really honest and have some inconvenient conversations with people. And your coach, if you are a coach, then those are conversations that they're not particularly nice ones that you don't want to have, but you get a feel where things are at. You've just got to address it and nip it in the bud pretty quick. Otherwise, if one goes, then generally one's following, and then you've got two, and then all of a sudden you've got three, and then you've got a dressing room that one side is happy and the other side's not happy, and then the whole thing just turns to custard, really. So I think it's really important that you coach. If you're a coach, you address it pretty early on. And if you're a player, you should be able to go up, depending on your age, and say, look, how you behave just isn't what I think we should be doing here, and talk about it. Just talk about it as human beings, really.
Yeah, I think it's important to have clear expectations as a group, I think, from the very start, like you said, have those goals and behaviours set in place during the pre-season. And that's one thing we do now at Scorch, is if someone's not buying in or demonstrating those behaviours, well, you've got every reason to call them out on that.
Absolutely.
At the junior level, we find that because, I guess, half the kids are there to have fun and just do something on the weekend, and half the kids are there to, improve and learn and get better and go as far as they can. So that's a real tough one. Situation, I guess. You're never really going to get the commitment from the kids that are just doing something fun.
That's, I guess, where your coach has to have a really good understanding of what's going on. And I suppose, you've got to talk about everyone's individual needs and have the kids that might just be there for fun to understand that there are some kids here that want to try really hard and want to get better. Yeah. And the other kids have to understand that, these kids just probably just want to be there having fun. I think it's a really important as a coach to get a happy medium of them both, and understanding that, okay, you want to get better, and I'm just going to try my best to be as good as I can be.
I think that's why
having fun.
Coaching club teams is probably the hardest. I would think.
Tell me now. You could have told me in 2010.
I mean, junior club teams, mate.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is, because you've got so many, as Nick said, you've got so many variations of young men and women that want to do things. They might be good at a different sport, and they've just been dragged in because they were told that they were going to be the 11th or 12th person in the teams. And I was doing that back when I was in Cambridge. Actually, I helped out a mate when I left. We were coaching a little club team, under 10s they were. I was helping out. His son was playing. And we had the same. And it was just about trying to keep them engaged. And maybe even I used to drag them away and give them some one-on-ones so they were engaged for at least 10 minutes before they started running rampant again. Have I finished? That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. We might let you go and watch that
MasterChef. Enjoy, mate.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Look, I think, as I said before, you've done a great job. It's a great thing you've got going, the Australian Institute of Cricket, and you're doing a fantastic job. And it's just so good to, Nick, congratulate. It was a fantastic wedding, and now that you're a dad, it's going to be tough. You're looking a bit tired now.
She was crying in the background before. She just got home from Leia's parents.
But she was laughing at me.
Leia snuck in the back, I think everyone would have seen.
Yeah. No, thanks, guys. Great job, and look forward to seeing you on the coast, Nick, and we'll catch up when this COVID-19's gone, Pete.
I'm hoping to be up there in June, July. We've got a live-in camp up there, so we'll catch up for a frog.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it. And thank you very much for the questions, guys. You're on a winner with these two fellows. They're great people.
Brilliant. Colsey, thanks so much for giving your time, mate. Appreciate
Absolute pleasure. Take care. See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.